A lot has been revealed about dark power being used, especially in the upper echelons of the old boys club. Dark power, like bloodlusty stuff and vampirism and sexual abuse and terrorizing people for the hit it gives them of power. And while it's always shocking and gross and reviling to learn about what's been happening under the cover of darkness among the upper echelon of power, yes, it is shocking. But it's not really surprising. It's not surprising that when these guys become so big from the projection load, from the hero worship, from all of the ego fluffery, that they would then resort to dark power tools to feed that fluffed up sense of self. Let me explain. I work with a lot of leaders, some celebrities, a few extremely wealthy, many very influential, and therefore people who are big leaders dealing with a lot of this, what I call projection load, where there's a lot of people who care about where they're at, where they're shopping, what they're having for breakfast, about even the minutia of their lives for a celebrity becomes newsworthy somehow. Or a CEO of a major Fortune 500 company. They are well known and people project into them quite a lot. And if you want to learn more about how that works, the projection load, I actually did another video of that. And this is kind of part 2 because I felt it's important to then follow up and say, look, very powerful men end up doing some really abusive, systemized, seemingly quite evil things. It's shocking, but it's not surprising. There is a reason. There's an energetic reason why. And it is not an excuse. It's an explanation, not an excuse. When a very wealthy, celebrity level, powerful man, they're mostly men in our culture still, receives all of this sort of projection, whether it's worship and adoration or resentment and hatred, but a lot of things getting thrown at him from the multitudes of people who pay attention. His energy body grows. It gets puffed up with energies that aren't even his, with projections and images and emotions that aren't even belonging to this leader. And yet they fill his field and make him feel bigger than life. If he's a really grounded person with mentors and pastors and a wife who's going to keep his ego in check, he's not going to keep all of that in his field. He's going to ground it. He's going to surrender it in prayer to the divine. He's going to release it with the real life instances of being humbled, and he's going to not blow up too big with all that projection. If he knows how to steward his bubble, which is something I teach, and a lot of other mystery schools teach about how to steward your auric field so that you're not getting all blown out of proportion. He's going to feel more peaceful holding his power. He's going to stay clear in his decision making, or she. But if this leader receives all that projection, starts to believe it, starts to actually feed off of the worship and even the disdain, or become overwhelmed by it such that he doesn't know how to hold all of this. It makes him anxious. It doesn't let him sleep at night. If he becomes so uncomfortable in it and grasps onto his ego as the answer to say, well, I really am so special. I really am bigger than everyone else. I'm more important than everyone else. That leads him to feed, to feel this starving hunger for feeding. This is the reason why so many of our guru teacher guys end up sexually abusing their followers, for example, or seducing or hurting and enjoying hurting people that look up to them. They are feeding. Now, what do I mean by feeding? We're good people, we're moral people, we're not used to using terrorizing and vampirizing and violence to make ourselves feel better. Okay, are you sure? Because when you think about it, even on the playground where it's more of a game and it's more innocent, sure, we are very early trained to these ways of taking power from another person. And I'll call them sort of the three big dark power tools that we humans use to take power from other people, to get a sort of a hit, to get a little high. And I'm not going to say that they're never okay. Like, it's not like it's never okay to kill, for example, an animal to feed your family. That's hunting. We've been doing that for eons. But there's a difference between approaching that violence, that blood power, with respect, and doing what, like my adopted Apache mama, Maria Yesbrew, would say, that in hunting, we take the life of that animal, but we also honor the life of that animal, and we acknowledge the passing of power from the animal to ourselves. And wow, that's a beautiful, integrous, balanced way of honoring the life taken and utilizing the animal, blah, blah, blah. That's on the integrity level of the spectrum, cool, of blood power, really. But when a guy who's a leader, who's a celebrity, who's really becoming hot on himself, believing all the hype, thinking that now he's of a better race, a better quality of human being, a more whatever, his ego just goes berserk, he's going to be tempted to use that taking of blood, of sexual abuse, of terrorizing people, and use that to simply steal that energy. Back on the playground, terrorizing people. Think about, as a kid, how fun it was to sneak up behind your friend and boo, scare them. There is an immediate hit of energy when another person is scared that you feel, you get a little hit. That's the innocent one on this side of the spectrum. That's the game we play with each other. Oh, but even so, when someone sneaks up behind you and scares you and startles you, you feel the loss. You will feel a little tired. You'll feel a little irritable, a little irritated probably, and you might laugh, not from joy, but from the shock and the trauma of being sent into fear for just even a moment. The person who scared you is going to feel a little bit elated, a little bit juiced up. So imagine at the extreme the level of feeding when a rich guy or whatever, somebody who's off their rocker with their fame and their celebrity and their wealth and their status, who's such an egoic that he thinks he has a right to scare people and feed off of the energy they drop. There's something about when a person is carrying so much projection load, so much of other people's stuff, that it makes them hungry for energy, hungry, and they believe, because of the ego fluffery, that they have the right to take energy from other people. Harvesting Shakti, harvesting sexual energy through the taking of sexual abuse, is one thrilling way that they feed. Taking the energy through violence, through blood magic, through blood lust. You're not just hunting a deer. You're taking blood. You're taking violence. You're taking the energy that is released in an act of violence and harvesting that and taking it for yourself. Again, when we learn and are reminded of the really evil, brutal, and organized ways that these elitist, wealthy, rich, famous people who can't handle their own energy are feeding from other people, we are shocked. Rightfully so. Shocked, disgusted, enraged, rightfully so. But surprised? How can we be surprised when these three ways of vampiring, seducing, sexual abuse that we've all pretty much been touched by, if we're aware, in our lifetimes, and the terrorization of scaring people in order to take their energy and control them, come on, that's happening everywhere. And this vampiring and the bloodlust, violence, these are the things that we need to become more aware of. And it's great that we're becoming more aware of them in the culture so that we're not just in this denial that this never happens, that this doesn't exist. And at the personal level, what can we do? At the personal level, what we can do is to become aware of projection load, to become aware of it, to steward our leadership with integrity. And as you grow more successful, as you gather more wealth and resource, as you are adored and hated and resented and wanted by more people, to learn how to stay humble, how to stay in relationship with God, Spirit, how to stay in relationship with earth, body, how to stay humble, how to stay connected, how to stay real, how to stay authentic, and to allow all that extra energy to be grounded and to be surrendered, to let it, to use it to open your channel of genius. Because it's not about how much money we have. It's not about, if you're an actor, what your fans think about your character. It's irrelevant. And so all this energy that comes in to a leader who becomes known can be utilized instead of just held and hoarded and saturated and overwhelming. How many of our celebrities that we adore kind of lose it as they get too famous because they don't know how to keep up their energy body with all of this adoration, with all of these projections. They might end up using drugs, otherwise numbing themselves out because it's overwhelming. They might find their center but need a lot of time alone, ignoring all the projections just to clear them out. Or they might become big, giant egos who use other people and feed from other people, who use their fame and the respect of other people to take. I think that these are distinctions we need to start talking about openly, that we need to actually find, create, and utilize these sorts of terms like projection load to describe something that we're not talking about otherwise. There is no excuse for vampiring other people's energy, for sexually abusing folks, for violently attacking and bleeding people, for all these horrible things. There's no excuse. But I think unless we start recognizing the reasons, some of the underlying energetic realities, we need to start realizing and recognizing the reasons so that we can shift them, so that we can talk about it, so that we can educate folks, and so that we don't have people entering into this level of extreme egoic narcissism that becomes systemic cult-like abuse. I think we can be done. Can we be done? Can we instead steward our own energy better? Can we learn to become co-creators with heaven and earth so that that energy isn't just stuck in the field? Can we talk about it more? Also for the benefit of people who have more wealth, more celebrity. Because when they know how to steward all this energy and not to be super overwhelmed or fluffed up, they can become the leaders we've been waiting for, with their influence, with their ability to communicate. They can open their channels and bring through, like all of us, what we came here to bring through, to channel our genius into this world, to create a more loving culture, to create a more co-creative existence on this planet where there aren't winners and losers, but rather everyone can win. Let me know your thoughts. I know this is a touchy subject and one that we haven't been talking about in these terms. So I'd love to hear your impressions. Thank you.